Welcome in Western Slope. It is a wonderful Sunday. I'm Josephine Sage. Let's jump right into the forecast. As we take a look at those weather headlines, it's basically going to be kind of that same trend of what we've been looking at for the last couple of days. Those temperatures are still in those upper 90s and closer to that Utah area, even sticking in those triple digits. And for us here in Grand Junction and Montrose, we're going to be pushing those triple digits in the middle to the end of work week for sure. There's possible chance for some precipitation in the southern areas this evening and into Monday. That area is kind of the San Juans area and pushing towards that front range with a little bit of that leftover moisture. And there is going to be dry airs to the middle of the end of the work week after those precipitation values go down as another high pressure system moves on in from that west coast to set us up to what we're familiar with in July with dry, really hot, and possibly windy weather headed our way. We'll notice the highs today. Actually, Grand Junction was pushing those triple digits. Montrose in those mid 90s, Delta 98, Moab even at 105 from what those afternoon temperatures were today. Tomorrow, we're going to be looking at very, very similar ones, even in those higher elevation areas, those mid 80s, Glenwood, Parachute, even pushing into that 90-degree range as well. Our almanac will show us what we're typically used to this time of year is actually 95. So we're above that by a couple of degrees and we'll continue to be above by a couple degrees. Our low end actually very similar to what we're typically used to, but still some warm evenings. We'll notice that record of 107 back in 2021. So, I'm not too upset about our 99, 100-degree afternoon temperatures. We'll also take a look at that pollen forecast. Hasn't really shifted too much. Low trees, high grasses, low weeds, and some moderate mold in terms of those irritations hanging on out in our atmosphere. As we take a look 6 to 10 days out, with that high pressure system that's going to be moving on in from the west coast, we are looking at a 40% chance above normal temperatures in Grand Junction, in Montrose, and in all of these other areas that are staying in that orange, that yellow, and even as it pushes towards the front range, still that kind of cream, that yellow color, staying at least 10 to 20% chance above what we're typically used to this time of year. So speaking of that, I kind of want to remind you again, I know I've chatted about it before, how to be safe in that sun. Make sure you apply sunscreen with higher than 30 SPF every 2 hours, and especially if you're sweating or getting into some water. Wear hats, sunglasses, long sleeves, any of that protective clothing, and stay in those shady areas between 10 to 4 p.m. and even a little bit after that as those later evening hours roll on and those UV rays could still be hanging on out during that 5 to 6 p.m. hour. And I kind of do want to chat about car heat. It's getting really, really hot. So as we take a look at that 90-degree Fahrenheit range, that 95-degree Fahrenheit range, within 10 minutes could get already up into that 110, 114. After 30 minutes, 124 and 129, 60 minutes, 133 to 138. We'll take a look here that we'll notice that low pressure could be moving on in, centered over Los Angeles, but right following it in the next couple of days, that high pressure right off the west coast is going to push on in and give us those really warm temperatures as the middle of the work week comes. 101, 102, 103. Montrose, of course, a few degrees cooler, but still pushing in those mid to upper 90s. So, as you get outside, just make sure you're staying hydrated and, of course, use that sunscreen.